Hello traders, welcome to today's video. It is Monday the 9th of June 2025 and this is a little Bitcoin top-down analysis for you all today, just to give you my views on the Bitcoin price action that we've had recently and the overall market, what we can be expecting over the coming days, weeks and maybe even months. So starting off here on the weekly, there's not too much to say. Okay, I'm not even going to click on the monthly because we're partway through the month. We've put in a wick down on the month, but it's still pretty early days. And the data that we have from the previous month, okay, we have like to take out previous month lows or something is a big move down at this stage. We're still holding 100k really nicely. We had that highest monthly close of all time. We had a couple of weeks ago the highest weekly close of all time. So for myself, still looking at this as being a nice uptrend and maybe just some kind of corrective phase, because we did like that little bit of a swing failure pattern, all right, of taking out these weekly highs and closing like, well, we did close like a couple of dollars above it, but it was a bit of a rejection there on that weekly close that we had a couple of weeks ago that has led us down to another test of these lows, a nice sweep of like any like late longs or just like overly bullish positioning, wipe some of that out. But for myself, still looking at this being like another move higher over the coming weeks. We're holding the 50 EMA, so as long as we're doing that, I know that's a long way down at the moment, but we are holding above that. We're holding above value area for the year. We're holding above the weekly standard deviations for the year, and everything at the moment is pointing towards higher prices. The only thing that would really change that is acceptance below 100k. We've not even had a test below 100k yet, and it's been over a month since we broke through it. So yeah, things are looking good. So let's just go down onto the daily, because there's a lot more to talk about on the daily because things aren't moving all that quickly right now. So the sweep that we had down here, it did just take out, like, it was a low. All right, this is the first time that we've really had any kind of corrective move that has been down rather than just sideways and up. So of course, since the 74k lows, we had like a nice impulse higher, sideways, continuing to make higher lows, higher highs, another impulse higher, then a correction that was sideways and up, another impulse higher, correction that was sideways and up. And now we're looking at a bit more of like what could potentially be seen as a top pattern. Similar, I guess, to what happened back here like earlier on in the year. But the strength is there, all right. I think for me, like I said on the previous, looking at the weekly, just this being a nice flush, but still overall looking at higher prices. The thing that would give me some more confidence on that really is, I think, in order to be fairly certain of higher prices at the moment, I still think this is looking nice. The way that we recovered the other day, looking very good. But if we can get back above 107,000, then yeah, I think the chances are we make another new all-time high relatively soon, and my target for that is still up towards this 130k zone. It's based off of fibs. It's going to be price discovery, so there's not a whole lot of analysis that you can really do with that. But if we are looking at the one-to-one from our August 2024 lows to the previous all-time high, to that big correction that we had earlier on in the year, and this being another move higher into price discovery, then we do have the one-to-one up there at 134,700, and we do have the 1.618 here at 131,000. So yeah, I repeat, everything's still looking pretty good for now, and the only thing that will get me bearish is acceptance back down below 100k. I can cover some levels, maybe some confluence that we have down there just in a moment, but that for me is the targets for this next move up. Now, if we just look on maybe the 30-minute time frame, again, it's very, very balanced. And I think what we're seeing here is this area of compression, okay, where we have support that had been established from the previous move up, and that was support around 104, resistance around 107. All right, and we are seeing this compression here. So because we weren't able to break through, we did have that test up into this imbalance up here around about $106,800, $107,000. We weren't able to continue to push higher. We did break some local market structure, and then of course we got an opportunity to look for nice short positions. I have been hedged short Bitcoin for a while, and that was a really, really good opportunity to be taking some profit, even though we didn't go below 100k. The way that this recovered, that nice V-shaped recovery, and then like continuation higher, is looking relatively good. So I think over this week we can be looking at some kind of compression. We do need to be aware that it is a CPI and PPI week, so volatility will start to increase as this week goes on. And yeah, we're going to get some really important data coming out. Now, naked POCs, Saturday, all right, we have tested back down. On Sunday, we did test back into what was a high volume node. There's nothing else within here. And the only other thing that we can really say is we do have, we did have this drop down here, which came into a point of control previously. But if we're looking at this POC from a more recent move higher, we've tested down into that area on a couple of occasions. Okay, imbalance here, a little spike down that didn't actually quite come into these single prints, but then this spike down did just tap into those single prints before getting a nice recovery. So everything on this chart is really the important NPOCs for me are still higher, unless we're going to get that move down that takes us to the low 90Ks to mid 80K zone, which I'm not particularly considering that until we see that acceptance back inside 100K once again here. So I'd want to see prolonged price action, some aggression coming down here below 100K before I start to entertain the idea of another 10% lower, basically. What else? MPOC up here, that's 107,800. But like I say, just thinking really for the next couple of days here is some more sideways. And then we'll see what the PPI and CPI reads give us and see what kind of price action that can give us. Anything else that I need to cover? I think the yearly value area and yearly VWAP is interesting. So this is my face in the way. I'll just shift this over a little bit. The yearly VWAP, all right, which is, my face is still in the way. You know where it's going to be from. It's from 1st of January. Obviously, it's the yearly VWAP. We did see a nice bounce off of that first standard deviation here. So once again, that coming just above $100,000. And we can see that we're now settling around a high volume node. This is the yearly, the yearly volume profile that we have so far. We've got a very, very clear POC at 96,500, but if price does continue around this area, this 104 to 107, keep repeating it for a few more days, then we could see that point of control may shift higher. I believe it's already shifted higher on a couple of perps exchanges, but this, looking at the Coinbase chart, being the one that's been giving some really nice swing trade opportunities recently, I would be looking at a few more days, maybe another week or so of sideways within this area. If we do continue just to fill out price action here, then we could see that POC shift up, and that's the point where you would expect to see price repel away from it, either as a move higher or a move back down to test into a previous point of control. Anything else that I need to cover? What else is there? Another interesting thing here, if we do take the volume profile from our lows, those 74K lows, we can see the point of control of this lying around where this support is. However, price at the moment just below the value area high on this. So we're still within value area. We're still within value area of this entire range, but we're seeing nice support up at the top of this range. And unless we see a major breakdown here, for myself, it's still looking higher. Is there anything I've missed? Is there anything that I've missed on Bitcoin? Not really. Did any support lower? I have spoken about bearish scenarios. There is the potential for a bearish harmonic here, where we could be looking at the a XABCD up here, which would be a bearish shark pattern. And there is nice confluence down at the yearly open. If this is to give us a deeper correction here, you can see the 0.5, which would be the target for this harmonic, is coming down at that yearly open at 93,350. We also have a high volume node down there. I mean, it's just above, it's that 96K zone, as I've mentioned. And just below there, we do have that yearly anchored VWAP. So it would be an area of support down here between 96 to 92. There would be a nice zone to be looking for, maybe swing alongs once again, if we are to see any more of a move down. But the way that we recovered the other day, the way that we're back within the range that we were over the last week or two, it's looking pretty good for the time being. Now, yeah, that's really not too much more to update on with Bitcoin. The only thing that I would say which is slightly changing my plan at the moment, I did think that like Ethereum would show a bit more strength and that the altcoins would show a bit more strength after the move that we had the other day. Now, what we've seen is a nice recovery from Bitcoin, and altcoins are not really moving very much. So you're getting the odd few that are like bouncing really well, that are outperforming Bitcoin right now. But if you look at ETH BTC, like, is it rolling over here? It's holding this range at the moment, but Bitcoin dominance still continuing just to push back up into this like 64, 65% zone. For me, I was like more so kind of more positioned like with a bit more long exposure on the altcoins and being hedged short on Bitcoin. Now that's been playing out okay because overall things are still looking quite bullish. But for myself, having that hedge short on Bitcoin and a bit more long exposure, it's not really playing out, like it's not giving that reward, that immediate reward that we maybe would have hoped for. But overall, I'm still looking at altcoins as being nice over the next like weeks and months. But the market needs to pick up. And they have been disappointing for a very long time. The plus side of this is if Bitcoin's going to remain bullish and is going to continue up to like 66% or whatever, then altcoin in the USD value will naturally increase higher. And when we do eventually get this drop in Bitcoin dominance, then that could be a nice catch-up play. But what I was mainly looking for was like, okay, we'll see some resistance here and maybe continuation lower on dominance. But because we've had so much uncertainty within the market, I think we've just had this gradual like grinding higher on the dominance chart, similar to what we've had over, well, the whole year so far. So we'll see how this goes. But there needs to be a catalyst from somewhere. There needs to be a spark from somewhere. It is essentially like the BTCD chart is essentially like Ethereum versus Bitcoin. All right, if Ethereum does well, then the alts are going to do well, and it's not looking great on ETH at the moment. What I was ideally looking for, if we do look at Ethereum, like the way that it had been holding above this point of control, right, this being like a big macro POC that we've got back here, the way that it was holding above this point of control previously, all right, did lead me to, I did have a more of a bullish bias on Ethereum, and I was hoping that we would see a move higher. Now we're seeing that move back into this point of control from below, which is a little bit more bearish, but of course we're still holding this range so far. So remains to be seen. All right, like I was in a long position on ETH from down here, like 1,700, 1,800. The target for that was 2,600. I don't have a huge like ETH long or anything like that. I was like, I've got some alt exposure. I was like, it would have been nice to see continuation higher, but the weakness that we've seen at the other day, the recovery hasn't been so much from altcoins. So that's the only thing that's really changed for myself, is just, yeah, a little bit more weakness from the alts, as opposed to like seeing them bounce back more nicely. But if Bitcoin continues higher, then I think once again the whole market can start to recover. I made it very clear my thoughts on altcoins overall. Like, although I believe that there's a lot more reward to be had within altcoins for the risk that you can put in, if you're going to be going long on Bitcoin here for a 20-30% gain or something from where we dropped to the other day, like if you're going long around 100k and looking for 120, 130, the gain the potential gain that's to be had from that isn't really there so much. So for me, if I'm looking for Bitcoin longs, I would want to see lower. Whereas I think with altcoin longs, it just needs a spark from somewhere, and then you can make that back a lot quicker. We've seen a bunch of altcoins hype, whatever other ones there are, virtuals, some other altcoins that have been performing very well of late. And the upside potential that is there on altcoins is still much higher, even though it's a little bit more risky because they've been a bit more bearish. But we have seen this situation, like with Ethereum, where you've got a lot more room to run to the upside, okay, and we've seen a nice breakout from a downtrend. So even if this does continue, and even if we are to be looking a little bit more corrective, I'm still overall looking at the market as being relatively strong over the next few weeks and months. So yeah, I think that kind of wraps up my overall analysis here for the market. Let's see how it goes. Quick summary. Bitcoin, still bullish bias unless we are trading and getting acceptance below 100k. If that is to be the case, we're looking at yearly open and the imbalance below. So it would be that zone between 96 to 92. And then if that doesn't hold, then we're looking all the way down here at those low 80s once again. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it will. I think the reaction that we've seen recently has been very nice. But of course, this week, PPI, CPI, the data is going to tell us a lot. Are we going to be getting rate cuts, all of this kind of thing? Is Trump going to open his mouth and start to like nuke the market once again? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that pretty much sums up my thoughts on the market here. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.